Hi, I'm Brady, and I want to talk about my ASP.NET Core React single page application template that I've been working on the last few weeks that I'm pretty happy with. And I just want to take you through setting it up and working with it and demonstrate everything that's baked in. So on the GitHub page, there are setup instructions. I've already cloned this repository to this local folder, and the first thing I'm going to do per the instructions is run npm install, which will install all the node dependencies from package.json as well as all the .NET Core dependencies from the project.json files in the API and api.test folders. And part of this template, you'll notice that I'm using npm scripts as the interface for testing, starting the server, installing, and also provisioning and deploying, which I'll cover in just a minute, so that there's a single interface for working with this project. So it's finishing up installing the .NET Core dependencies, and once this is done, we will go ahead and run npm test, just so I can demonstrate that it runs the XUnit .NET Core test suite as well as the Mocha enzyme test suite for the React components on the front end. Now this template doesn't have many tests. In fact, there's only one in each, just as a sample. But the 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 pattern is established for adding more tests and running them using the npm test command. So now that we've done that, we're just going to go ahead and run npm start. This is going to provision a development Postgres database using Docker, run initial migrations, fire up the .NET Core server, and um, it's also configured with ASP.NET Core SPA services, which enables Webpack's hot module replacement, so that everything can be done using this single command to fire up the server. So now that that's running, I'm going to navigate to port 5000 locally, and the hello world comes up. Now I want to demonstrate working with the project for development, particularly with the hot module replacement, which is really slick. And this is nothing new, of course. However, getting it set up and working through the ASP.NET pipeline is pretty elegant because you don't have to run multiple commands and everything is shuttled through the single .NET Core server. So if I go into this React component and I change this text to foobar and just hit save, you'll notice that the page will update automatically. I didn't hit refresh. It just pulled it in. Now if I change this background to, let's go with red, it'll automatically update, which is really handy, particularly for SPA development, whenever you've got a lot of local state built up, and refreshing the page would cause all that to be lost. So that's really nice that everything can flow through that pipeline. And let's see, let me get that back to black, because that's going to drive me crazy. Okay, so things are back to normal. And in the template, you'll see that there's a lot of stuff already set up and configured here. For instance, I'm using CSS modules so that this CSS class will be namespaced to this specific page, which is handy to avoid CSS collisions. And the next thing I want to demonstrate is the provisioning and deployment, which is already baked into this template. And if I go over to DigitalOcean, I'll show you that just before this, just before I started this recording, I created a new droplet. Oh, went away. I created this droplet right here with this IP address, and I went into the ops folder and created this host file, which is based off the host.example template. So it looks like a lot of config, but most of it is really straightforward, and there are instructions referenced here, but if you go into the ops readme, it shows you what you need to do to configure. It's actually really easy. The main thing that I've done is I've added the IP address for this droplet that was just created up here at the top, and I've specified a web server name. So in this case, I'm using test123.geekytidbits.com. Then I went over to Cloudflare, where where I set up my name server for geekytidbits.com. I added a new A record for test123, which points to that new DigitalOcean droplet. So once all that's set up, I'm going to run. I'll do it in this window so you can see it better. From the same folder, I'm going to run npm run provision prod, and this is going to provision this DigitalOcean droplet so that it can host this application. Admittedly, again, I've run this before I started this recording so that it would go faster the second time, but it should work just the same the first time and the second time because of the way that Ansible works. So this is installing Nginx. It is installing Supervisor, configuring Supervisor to run the .NET Core app. It's configuring Nginx to act as a reverse proxy. It's using Let's Encrypt for obtaining an SSL certificate. It's configuring Nginx for SSL. It's doing all sorts of stuff. It's installing Postgres, configuring Postgres per the settings in the ops host file. And once this is done, then this server is going to be able to be deployed to and host this application. It's setting up the firewall to only allow SSH and web traffic in, and it's almost done. Once this is done, I'm going to deploy to it. Okay, now I'm going to deploy. Okay. It's publishing the .NET Core application. It's running the production Webpack bundle, copying that all out to a temporary location, copying the files over to the server, setting up the configuration, including the connection string in the database, and deploys it. So now I'm going to open test123.geekytidbits.com in browser, and it comes up with Hello World, which is awesome. And I'm going to try SSL, and that works too because it obtained this certificate from Let's Encrypt. So everything's automated, and it's super easy to deploy this app. So from this point forward, it's just a matter of building out the application and doing whatever I want with it. So thanks for watching.